For the love of rugby, brought to you by Black Heart. There's a new Stout in town. Thanks to Brewdog. Coley, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Ben. How are you?
I'm fine, mate. All good. It's great to be back in the studio. It's an exciting time. Six Nations is literally starting this weekend, and we're going to do our guide to Dublin, which of course is when England kick off their campaign.
Yeah, England been in Girona in the lead up to the game, and then flying directly into Dublin. So it's a 10-day sort of lead into the game, and then straight into Dublin to play the game.
I think we played Ireland in 2019, I think, opening game, and did the same thing. I think went to Browns for the week in Portugal, then flew in straight direct. Just means rather than going obviously in Spain for the week and then flying back and then having a week at Penny Hill, makes sense to stay out there longer and then go direct in. So
yeah. Well, so England did last year against Italy, which was
of course.
Game. Went to Girona, which is kind of like England's new training camp base, and then flew directly into Rome, played, and then came home. But it's quite nice. It's quite a nice sort of warm weather camp. You're away from it. You're just immersed in the bubble of camp. So, and then England train Thursday morning and fly into Dublin Thursday night. For the Six Nations, I think England have chartered a flight from Heathrow to Girona, Dublin home. So yeah, it's flights cheap this time of year.
Any take us into that plane? What we're looking at? Luxury seats, business class?
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if I said before, we've had like some planes, because I think what you do is you basically, there are companies out there where you tender for the flight. So you say we need to go here, and they put a cost out, whatever it is, and how many people you have and luggage and that kind of stuff. And sometimes we flew to Dublin one year, and it was basically a Jet 2 plane, wasn't it? And so it was massive. There's about 200 seats on it, and there was only like 50 of us. So everyone's like lounged about. Another time we flew, it was one of the, I don't know, it was like Estonian Air or something. No one upset them, but like they were big leather recliners. Do you remember we did it with Leicester once? We did it up to Edinburgh, didn't we? And everyone was like taking pictures, and the head coach was running around like, "Do not put this on social media. Do not put this on social media." It's like, why not? And then we lost by like 40 points, and that was the reason we lost, because we had a luxury plane.
This particular coach didn't like the thought of us being remotely comfortable.
Yeah,
he would rather us.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He'd have wanted us to get the bus. He'd have wanted us to hitchhike up to Edinburgh. Yeah, that would have kept us humble. But the flight made us too comfortable, and that's why we lost. And that's 40.
Why we lost. Nothing to do with just the game itself.
But I don't know about the flight. Don't know about the plane. But they're normally nice and say you direct into Girona. I think previously we've flown commercial into Barcelona. It's an hour commute, but I think now you can fly straight into Girona, and it's just very smooth and easy.
Just coming back to that Friday session, when you're the away team, actually, you don't have the slot in terms of when you can go to the stadium and do it. So when you're at home games, England will go in the mornings, and the away team will come in the afternoon. However, when you're the away team, you won't be allowed to get to the Aviva till the afternoon, because I'm assuming Ireland will take that morning slot.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say obviously the home nation has the choice of when they want to go, which might be morning or afternoon. Some teams sometimes go in the afternoon because of the evening kickoff, but most of the time teams come in at sort of 10 and get out there by midday, and then the opposition come in at 1. But with us, I say it's not too bothered. England normally stay fairly, not central to Dublin, but you're only about 15 minutes outside the city. I think you're in the city, but you're only 15 minutes away from the stadium, 20 minutes maybe. So, boys in the morning go out for a coffee, just relax, take it easy, do the team run, then come back and eat some chocolate biscuits. England normally stay. We had a couple of venues.
Sheraton normally.
Well, there's one which is right in the middle of town,
which is which I think is the Sheraton, yeah.
And there's another one which is a Radisson, which is further out. I think it's St Helens or something, which is a bit more remote. We say it's about 15 minutes away, so it's not remote, but it's just out of the way. But yeah, I'm trying to think of where we've stayed. Sheraton. Do you remember when we stayed at Sheraton once? The owner of the Arizona Cardinals was there. We all jumped in a lift, and I waved at him and said, "Go Birds," and he was really happy.
I actually do remember that.
He did offer me a contract, but yeah. That was the most famous person we've seen in the hotels. But yeah, that's the thing. And as I say, we are well looked after England, and whether you're in the mix or not, you're fairly sort of, I guess probably being out of town's a bit quieter than being in the town. But it doesn't really matter too much. We've had it with St Patrick's Day, haven't we? Not normally, but England played Ireland a lot on St Patrick's Day. And I remember one year we played them, and literally Dublin was buzzing for sort of 3 days we were there. And we just sat in hotel rooms. Yeah,
well, it's hard. You want to get out for a coffee, and you kind of want to, like, guys have their routines, but those weekends particularly, you are better off just staying in your hotel than trying to venture out, even if the coffee shop's only 2 minutes down the road. The games on St. Paddy's Day when we do play them, like it's an entire week build up because obviously Cheltenham goes on that week as well. So Irish love their horses and their racing. And it's like, even if you're playing at home against Ireland on St. Paddy's weekend, so regardless, even if you're in Dublin, but like so many come over, watch Cheltenham races and then tie it in with the rugby at the weekend. And it's, I don't know, I always feel like it gets a bit more out of Ireland.
I definitely, I think there's a buzz about the game when it is in that St. Patrick's weekend. And as you say, traditionally, it's the Cheltenham's been on beforehand, and that leads up to it. So, yeah, I don't know if it lifts Ireland or whatever. I think we've only played a couple of times in St. Patrick's weekend in Ireland itself. But the place is always buzzing. Like you'd say, the Aviva Stadium's always loud and good. But yeah, whether it's St. Patrick's weekend, especially in London, I think it does. There's a little vibe, isn't there? I think when you're in camp, you watch the racing, you play in Ireland, I don't know, it fits in nicely.
The Six Nations, I love this tournament. Like, people love it. Even the people that don't necessarily watch rugby too much, everyone just gets involved about it. So if your friend only watches the Six Nations during this period, tell them to listen to the pod, because we'll be doing reviews, previews, and hopefully give you a better insight into the game if you are the people that just kind of tune in for the Six Nations only. Then coming back to Ireland, Coley, the difference between playing them in February and March, certainly weather conditions, because every time I go there, mate, it seems like it rains at some point during the game.
Oh yeah, like Dublin, for the obviously geographically minded, it's on the east coast of Ireland, but I still think it gets fairly wet, because obviously the weather rips off the Atlantic, so it's wet, but it's not cold, or it's sort of like, I've never really seen it, like sometimes we've had snow and ice and that kind of stuff, whereas I know we normally play in March time, but Dublin's never seemed that. We've had snow in Rome, and France and Scotland. Don't think I've had snow in Wales.
No,
definitely not played snow in Ireland, or even ice or frost. So it obviously gets cold, but it seems to be fairly temperate, which is nice. But yeah, I guess in the end of March, it's different. It's amazing how that month in your mind, you have a different perspective of weather. It's probably exactly the same, but at the end of March, you think like, oh, the sun's out, it's all right. We're spilling in February, like it's cold, miserable, and it's going to be dark all the time. But there's probably actually about 1 degree in it, but in your mind, to say it's totally different.
Coley, I think you should give a bit more of a detail about the weather there in a sort of very weather
let me
forecast.
just have a look on my research paper. Dublin has a temperate oceanic climate with mild temperatures and heavy rainfall all year. January and February are the coldest months of the year, but it's rare for it to snow or freeze. However, due to high humidity, it can feel colder than the thermometer shows.
Well,
which is pretty much in line with what I was saying. So
that is in line with what you were saying.
Yeah. I'm trying to think last time we were there. But last time we were there would have been the World Cup warm-up game.
Yeah.
In
23.
And we stayed, and I went with Joe Marler and Johnny Hill. We went out for a coffee the day before, and we went to the coast, because that's not very, it was only about 10 minutes away from the hotel. Went there, and I think Joe and Johnny thought they were going to drop in the sea and go for a swim. And the place we went to, it was absolutely tipping it down, and the waves would have been a good 15 foot high, I reckon. And there's also, with the place we got to, it was really like wet and soggy. You walk down this sort of beachfront, there's I don't know where we were, but there's a walkway and obviously shingle and stuff, and they're like thinking about going in. And then we got there, and there was like a tribute to a shipwreck, and then there was also some flowers on the side of someone's like recently passed, and the boys were just kind of like, I think we'll miss going in the water today, lads. Should we just go get a coffee? So we did.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's like, yeah, they're really excited to go to the beach.
Sounds like a good idea, do some cold water plunge, get in the sea,
exactly.
freshen up, and this has turned a bit dark.
No, yeah, definitely not. So, that was last time we were there, and that must have been, it was like August, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it would have been August. Mate, when I think of actually Ireland away, though, it doesn't feel like necessarily a happy hunting ground. So I remember we won in 2011.
We had a World Cup game.
We lost in 2011. We had a World Cup warm-up game in 2011, we won.
Yeah.
Then we won in 2013 in the Six Nations.
Which was a tight game.
Really tight, 12-6.
Yes.
We then lost in
2015.
We lost in 2017.
Which was, that was the end of England's
18 game streak.
18, yeah.
18 game streak. But we reclaimed the title.
Yes.
We won in 2019.
That was when England physically...
Yeah, we played very well that day.
Was that the first line? Was that the first line? Was like over the top to sort of Manu?
Yes.
There was like Mako, Billy.
Yeah.
And just physically.
Elliot scored, I think, early on. Elliot scored from a grubber kick as well.
Yeah.
Like we played, like just everything stuck. Yeah. And actually that was the year that I think bonus points came in.
Right.
Six Nations, and we managed to get a bonus point, which was huge. I think Slady got an intercept at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I remember that being really, that was one of my fondest wins actually, because I know how it's so hard to win there. And then we played them in 21 and we lost as well. But that was obviously no crowds. That was a funny old game.
And we played recently the 20.
Oh, and away in 23
World Cup game,
and we lost that. So yeah, not a great happy hunting ground to be honest with you.
Ireland are a great team, aren't they?
Very good. And actually, you look at over recent history, I think they've had the most success in the Six Nations.
Yeah. So I say there's no shame in losing in Ireland because they're always a quality team. But yeah, no, they're. I think the Aviva is definitely a happy hunting ground for them, and it's a very tough place to go and play. Which, well, is partly I think the crowd, but partly is Ireland being really good. Yeah,
so it hasn't been necessarily a happy hunting ground for England, but New Zealand I think were the first team in the autumn to win there for like 20 odd games or something like that. However, my predictions haven't been great. But I really think England have a fantastic opportunity to win this weekend. And I think they're going to do it. So up the England lads, good luck. And when we're back, we'll chat more about Dublin. Let's talk about the Aviva Stadium. It was built in 2010, but it's a bit of a strange setup given the North Stand. I believe it's the North Stand. And the shape of it and how little rows there is in the North Stand. Coley, do you want to delve in and give the listeners a bit of an idea why that is?
Well, Ben, I've been doing some research, as I do, into the iconic stadium, as it's described. The site was constrained on all sides, crucially by houses with rights to light to the north and south, and the railway line running along the western boundary. These constrictions required the design team to develop a specific methodology of design and construction for the project. I've obviously gone straight to the architect's page, by the way, just so you know. The dramatic form of the finished stadium rises in the east and west. I don't know what rises in the east and west, but anyway, also must finish in the east and west to give the majority of spectators the best viewing angles while lowering the north and south to minimise the impact on the residential areas. The horseshoe-shaped truss for the main roof is supported by two columns at the north end, providing the stunning visual effects of the roof in suspension hanging above the seating tiers. The Aviva Stadium heralded a new era of stadium design where complex curved forms can be designed and constructed using the parametric design software. It is a beautiful curved facade is an ephemeral addition to the skyline of Dublin and provides an iconic design that acts as a national symbol. Right, there's a load of spiel there.
Basically, it's a greenhouse.
But basically, it's a greenhouse at one end, and they have to kind of like let them have lights. So building a massive stadium wouldn't let you have them lights. So that's why that end is lower than the others.
Why don't they just build it somewhere else?
What, like not in Dublin?
Well, on the outskirts.
Maybe they wanted it there.
Because I tell you what, the other thing about the Aviva is, you know, when you obviously play Wales, Scotland, these other fixtures, even Paris is a bit similar to the Aviva, I'd say, is when you're driving to the game, you don't really see any fans. And then when you pull up to the stadium, like there's just a few because you go underneath the stadium.
We come in around the back almost, because we come in through like housing estates and stuff. And
you see them right at the end.
Very nice parts of Dublin we come through. Yeah.
It's not like the drive at Twickenham. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Like the way it goes around, you like integrate through with all the fans, everything like that. And the same with, of course,
but Twickenham, you don't. There's busy roads, but you really see only when you get to the stadium. That's when you get to see the massive fans. You don't see them walking in. But I say with Dublin, I think we come in through the back, and the bus comes in under the stadium. So there's only a few collected.
Yeah, you just don't get that.
A couple of bars you go. There's a hotel I think that you go past on the left that's normally full. That has a beer garden and stuff.
But I always think it's missing. I always felt like whenever I went there, like. It missed that sort of like interaction where you think of when you think of Six Nations and the fans. Wales is epic.
The Principality is the one where you drive through the city. Yeah, and basically there's loads of fans that have to move out of the way. But that's really the only one.
Scotland's good once you arrive at the stadium. It's similar.
But say the Vivas,
England's brilliant.
On the bus, you sort of just almost turn up and you're straight into the back of the stadium and underground into the stadium. So yeah, you do miss a bit of that. But I like the thought of stadiums in cities and stuff where, as opposed to being out the way and sort of, you have a car park and everyone's got to go there. In fact, they're in a city and it's sort of like people can, almost like there's nothing and then there's everything there. I like that. It's a nice idea.
Where should we rank Aviva in terms of atmosphere, when we compare it to all the other Six Nations venues? Atmosphere, grief from the fans, where are we putting it?
I think atmosphere, it's really good. Paris is obviously top. The French place is top.
French is top, definitely.
But I'd say
Welsh second.
Wales probably second. But then Aviva, I'd say, is in the away stadiums. It's definitely, how do I put this? I wouldn't say it's hostile. It's noisy. And I think like when that cheer goes up after Ireland's calling the anthems, it's like that is a unique kind of moment in sport when it goes around the stadium. I don't know. It just feels sort of like 100 years ago or something like that. And everyone sort of stands up and that's really good. And that sends, shivers up your spine and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think it's like, I think the fans have always been fairly pleasant. Normally because Ireland win. So when they win, the
Irish fans, I'd seen always, never had any issues. I think they've always seemed pleasant, passionate, but pleasant.
Yeah.
But I agree. I wouldn't rank it above playing in France. I wouldn't rank it above playing in Wales. And I couldn't really call between Scotland and Ireland. Like, I don't know which atmospheres.
The stadium's 52,000. So it's not a massive stadium like Paris. Paris is 80,000. Wales is 70-something thousand, isn't it? So they are, but it's still a brilliant stadium to play in and play games there, and the surface is fantastic. And I say it is a special place to play in that regard. It wouldn't be my number one ranked stadium, but I think in terms of like places to play, it definitely adds to the Six Nations, Dublin and the stadium itself.
Let's take the listeners. So once we've arrived and we go underneath.
Well, we've got the England bus that has been sent out a couple of days before. Do you remember that one time we actually had two buses and we drove one bus to the airport, and then they sent the bus ahead a couple of days. They got the ferry across and it picked us up on the other side, a different bus. And I said to you, God, the bus has beaten us here. We should have just got that across. And you fully fell for it.
That may or may not be true. I was astonished.
We landed, and
I was like, oh my God. You were like, this is the same bus. And I was like, oh my God, it's the same bus.
When did you get the bus? The bus has beaten us here.
How's that beating us here?
No.
Turns out I got two with exactly the same branding and interior. But yeah, once you get underneath the tunnel, you come out, you disembark the bus, you walk in. Ireland change room is you turn right to the Irish change room and you turn left into the English change room.
You turn left to the Irish change room. You turn right to the away change room.
No.
Yes. You walk in off the bus and you turn right, don't you? The bus sort of comes in, you turn right.
You do turn right.
Straight in, there's normally a mural. If you play against Leinster, there's like Leinster winning European Cups. Ireland, I think there's a picture of them holding the trophies. And then Ireland go left and England or the away team goes right.
You are right. You do go right.
And you walk in and there's on the left there's like a bit of a staff change room, I think, which is set back. And then
your medical
beds are on the right. And then the left is like a big rectangular modern changing room, isn't it?
It is just a modern change room.
And there's showers and toilets around the back, and there's also a little 3G warm-up area.
There's a 3G little area, which is big enough to do like a bit of mobility. You could pass in there. Yeah. You could do a bit of drilling. So that area is actually quite a good, convenient little area, which often you don't get in away games. You don't get that feature for away matches.
No. Well, you'd be glad to know, Ben. We've talked about fans around the stadium. Did some research as well. The stadium is inaccessible to car on match days due to a 1 kilometre car-free exclusion zone in operation. However, the stadium is served by public transport with bus and dart. More remotely, it may also be reached by the Luas and on foot.
We'll come back to the game and the anthems and things like that. Should we talk about post-game where people might want to go and have a drink? Because it could be the first time people are going. So that's their guide to getting to the stadium. What about post-game? Because didn't you go out recently? Copperface Jacks, is that right?
Yeah. The last time we played in Dublin, the Six Nations game, that was my 100th game. So we went to the post-match. We had to go to, I think it was Donnybrook, where they basically had a big, the post-match festivities. We're in suits and stuff. Ireland, they just won the Grand Slam, so it was all about them. They basically had the Irish band march them in, and that people made a big song and dance to walk the trophy, and everyone's sort of amazed. We were basically, you're there, you're congratulating Ireland, but it's not about you. You're kind of just like, have a drink, say well done to everyone, but Ireland are happy celebrating, and you just don't want to get in the way. Anyway, I got called up on stage. He's like, 100 caps. Like, yeah, no one cares. Let me just get out of here. Like,
did you have to sing?
No, they wanted. He's like, I can't remember what it was. He's like, are you going to sing? No, I'm not.
Well, I remember Tom Wood got his 50th out there, and he sang, didn't he?
Yeah, but 50 is all right. I think when you get to 100, like,
well, you have the right
to have some respect.
Yeah, no, I'm not singing, and no,
exactly.
I'm going to have another.
No one wants to hear this. People want to celebrate Ireland's grand slam success. They want to hear about me, and no one wants to hear me sing, and I don't want to sing. So no. And
give me the cap.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks very much.
I'll just thank you.
I've earned the right to go sit back down and enjoy the night.
That's what I did. Anyway, we ended up going out into a few was in Copperface Jack's, and yeah, I remember the security guard. I had a photo with him because he was a handsome man with a bald head that looked like me, and that's pretty much all I can remember. But it's lots of stairs and stuff. I remember that, but yeah, it was rammed.
We've been post game as well. They had a few nights in Crystal's nightclub, I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's still trendy though, mate.
I don't know.
I remember we could
be past it, to be fair.
Louis Walsh of Boy
X
Band
Factor.
fame. And there was also a Westlife member in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
Because
Yeah.
his wife had maybe launched a thing, and they had their own like VIP roped off area. And yeah, that was, I can't remember anything much about that either. But that's kind of outside that nightclub, wasn't it? It was inside outside.
Yeah, it's kind of indoor, outdoor. Anyway, if you want to go, try that place.
Some great places.
Try any of those places.
There's also a Brewdog bar in Dublin. You should go there.
Yeah, you should go there.
There's previous years we've had post-match functions, and His Royal Highness Rory Best has got hold of us. Normally sort of you, me, Marla, sometimes your brother, that kind of stuff. And you end up drinking about 40 beers between you before you, normally someone had a flight home and stuff, but yeah. That's
you basically drink way more than you wanted to have a drink, but bestie being bestie, you end up consuming way more than you wanted to, anticipated, but it just goes that way. 2017, I remember when we won the title, although we lost. So it was a bit of it's always a weird feeling when you win a title, but you've just lost a game. And we were having a drink because it was the end of the tournament. And we went out that evening. And then the next morning we had individual debriefs basically. And sort of some coaches one-on-one tell you about your thoughts on the tournament performance, where you want to go, all these individual IDPs. And Johnny May had just had one. And he'd basically been told that he's got great potential, great speed, all the attributes that we know Johnny, because Johnny went on to be one of the greatest wingers that England have had. But he basically got sort of prodded a bit from Eddie, like, I think you kind of mess around a bit too much, like you're happy to sort of play the clown. And so we sort of had a bit of a dressing down. We then had a team meeting, debrief before we flew back. Some lads are still pretty intoxicated. We're all in good spirits, trophies in the middle, about to have this meeting. And Johnny is well known within the rugby circles. He's talked about the chicken instance before. Anyway, so the lads are all chanting like, Johnny, lay an egg. And there was a pool table. And he just had this meeting with Eddie, which none of us knew. And Eddie, like the emperor of Rome, sort of just puts his arm out and just acknowledges him that he should go do it.
Chicken, lay the egg. Johnny didn't know what to do. Then he looked at Eddie, and Eddie was just like,
Go do it for the boys. Go on, go do it. So Johnny's like, no, I can't. Eddie's like, do it. And he's like, none of us knew he just basically had a dressing down for being a clown. So he then grabs a snooker ball. Yeah. He then puts it between his butt cheeks, does a few chicken noises, and then lays it. The whole room goes mad. Everyone's buzzing. Eddie's just stood there with his arms crossed, literally in disbelief. Anyway, the meeting was happy and we flew back with the trophy, all in good. But there you go. That reminds me of like, it just came to my head and I felt like I needed to share it.
I was thinking about the post-match functions. I remember one time, I think it was one of the former Irish props. I think it was Paul Wallace basically came up to me, and I think I'd hurt my neck. I'd been injured with my neck previously, and we're talking about it for some reason. I think he asked me, I thought he asked how old I was. So I said like 28, whatever. And I think he said, how big's your neck? And he then thought I had a 28-inch neck. And I had no idea, because he was like amazed. And he was like, oh, 20? I was like, what? He was like, well, I was like, yeah, I just look a bit older than I am. And then afterwards, afterwards you're like, fuck.
Did he think?
Did he think that what an idiot I seem? But yeah, that's just dawned on me now.
He's doing every corporate gig when England play on, and he's like, you got to deal with Dan Cole. The guy's got a 28-inch neck.
Yeah. His head must be
He's
massive.
He's made for scrummaging.
His head actually his neck looks quite slim, but his head must be freaking massive.
This episode for the Love of Rugby is brought to you by Blackheart.
Ben, you're a stout man.
All right, Coley, there's no need for that.
All I mean, Ben, is when you're watching the rugby, you love a pint of the black stuff.
That is actually true. I can actually picture it now. Sitting in front of the telly, on the couch, got some snacks and enjoying a lovely malt pint.
Well, listen, forget everything you know about Stout and get to know Blackheart.
Whoa. I know exactly what I like in a pint, and I ain't going to change now.
What if it's better? I've even got a can of Blackheart. here for you to try.
Come on then, I'll give it a try. Thank you, Sheriff. That sounds good. Right, intriguing. Wait a minute. I don't want to rush this. I'll tell you what, Coley, that's an absolute game changer, mate.
And the best thing is you forget about going to Dublin and get a pint of the good stuff. For the listeners of For the Love of Rugby, you can get 12 cans of Black Heart for £15. I've even thrown in free delivery too. 12
cans for £15. Look, I know we're all about the listeners here, mate, but I tell you what, I'm going to get on the back of that as well.
You really are a stout man, aren't you?
No, Coley, I'm not. I'm a Black Heart man. Once you've done the warm-up and sort of like other games, you actually got to come in the change room a little bit earlier because you've got to meet the president.
Yes. There's a bit more pre-game sort of meet the dignitaries. So I think the president sort of comes out, he stands there. There's a sort of, the band plays almost his, I don't know if it's his song or whatever it is, but like, then yes, he goes along the line, meets both teams. And then I've done a couple of dignitaries, probably normally the president of the unions and stuff are there as well. And then you go into God Save the King, and then you have the two Irish anthems, one of which is Irish name I won't try and pronounce, don't want to disrespect anyone, and the other one's Ireland's Call. And they're both really, when you're in Dublin, it's unique. So you get those two anthems, and so the crowd is big, and so definitely it's part of the build-up, and it's unique to that game and fixture, and it's great.
I always found like though, it's like such a long wait that almost after the anthems, you have to like do something like a little sprint, like do a bit of grappling, maybe do a hit, do something, because actually, unlike other games, you know, you can come out and it's sort of into it pretty quick, where that one is like quite a long wait. So quite often you'll see teams go do some bag hits, maybe do a few pummels and sprints just to kind of get the body moving again.
Well, it's only probably about 10 minutes between coming in from the warm-up, getting your anthem jacket on, speaking, then going out onto the field, then meeting, probably longer than 10 in some regards, meeting the dignitaries, then having the three anthems, and then they've got to clear the field at the same time. So there's actually quite a period of time between finishing your warm-up, whereas other games is probably 5 or 6, well, probably a bit longer, but 5 or 6 where you get to go inside, put your anthem jackets on, go outside and have the anthems, whereas it's probably more than 15 minutes, isn't it really? I say 10, it probably sounds a bit short. I say 15, if not longer, with in Ireland, which again, so then you have to not warm up again, but you still want to do a bag hit or do a couple of sprints or, you know, down-ups, grapples, whatever boys do, just to basically get themselves ready and refocused to play the game.
And have you got a favourite memory in Ireland, of the actual game, like moments? For me, is it your incredible ball carrier when you were like, boys, try lines this way, follow me. Drop the Swede unintentionally.
Yeah.
Well, with his 28-inch neck.
Yeah. I can't say I particularly remember that. The clip's obviously great and reminds me, but yeah, it's not one of my standout moments from that game. I'm trying to think what the standout moments are. I do remember one time, it was more the review session where we kicked off. Must have been, when was that?
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
We basically kicked off, the kickoff went too long, and like, was it Sean O'Brien basically returned it into midfield and like ran over a couple of blokes, and then we ended up losing the game. And the review was basically, well, if 40 wouldn't have kicked the ball so long, we'd have probably won the game.
And it was the first kickoff of the game as well, wasn't it?
It had no bearing on the outcome of the game at all, but it was basically like, yeah, if we'd have kicked it shorter, we'd have probably won. It's like, yeah, 40, yeah.
We basically, they got to the middle of the pitch and then ran an edge, got to an edge, and then they box kicked it. They got that, I think we won it, but then they blasted that breakdown.
Didn't they?
And they got a penalty. And basically the whole review was about the first 30 seconds of the game. It's like, well, hang on a minute. What about the other 79 and a half minutes that we could have done better? It's like, nah, George, you got to do that kickoff correctly because they got to the middle of the field. It's like, it's not why we lost the game, but we spent 10 minutes talking about it in 2015.
Yeah, that one. So I'm trying to think of the games there. There's been, there's not really been great. It's like the one where I remember Ireland scored when they beat us in 2017, ended the streak, whatever it was, didn't they? That was basically a rolling maul at the back of the line-out. They just sort of, Peel scored, and that was, the game's like, you remember those bits of moments of games. So I don't remember sort of like the 12-6 time we won. I probably can't tell you much what happened in that game.
Well, I remember the 17 one because they scored early with that try, and then the rain came in.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it just turned into a bit of a game where they could sort of, it was tight, but they kind of sat on that lead and it was difficult. And
I'm trying to think the other game was, it wasn't a sensations game, but it was when Manu first came on the scene in like 2011, wasn't it? And I think he played his second game or something like that and basically ran straight through the middle of our, it was like Manu's literally, I just remember him.
I think 2019 is one of a good memory because I respect how hard it is to go and win there. And we played a very, very good game that day. And at the time, I think Ireland were world number one. They'd had a really good autumn. They beat New Zealand. And we went there and we played particularly well on that day. And that was a very enjoyable win. But it's enjoyable more to the respect I have for Ireland because I know how difficult it is to go there and get a win. Well, there it is. There's our guide to Dublin. Best of luck to England at the weekend. I honestly think they've got an opportunity to go do it. So come on, the boys. If you want another episode to listen to our Monday episode. We had a Six Nations quiz hosted by yourself, Sheriff.
Loved it. Yeah, I did. Loved it.
Loved it. And of course, myself and Anthony Watson will be doing the preview episode that comes out on Friday. So don't miss it. And thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much.